Welcome to this week's video. Today I'm gonna be following up on that series I started about my favorite colors in different brands of watercolor paints. I started with Sennelier. That was my first experience using professional watercolors. I have a video already on the channel. I'm gonna leave a card over here if you haven't checked that out yet. And today I'm gonna be sharing with you my favorite colors of the Schmincke Horadam aquarelle line. So before I start, just want to ask you, if you want to support this channel, please consider giving a like to the video if you like it, of course. Subscribe, share with your friends, comment. All of these will help me having my videos shown to more people here on YouTube. You know how it works, the algorithm and all of that. And if you subscribe, please hit the notifications button to know when I'm going to be posting my next video. So let's start. Here I have the catalog of all the colors by Schmincke. I think this is the, this is before they released the supergranulating sets. So here are just like the regular series watercolors. I'm gonna be sharing with you my favorite colors, but none of them are any of the supergranulating sets. And this was a choice. As soon as the supergranulating sets came out, everybody was super excited. It was all over YouTube. But I just took a deep breath before spending a lot of money with it, and I decided to go for the single pigment colors that were part of the different sets of supergranulating paints. And this way I thought I could have more use out of my colors and do my own mixes and all of that. So I have some of the colors here that I'll be showing you that are part of some of the sets as a mixture, of course. So I put a little star in every color that was used in one of the supergranulating mixes. Now let's start, shall we? I'm a bit rambling today, so sorry. Also, just disclaimer, if you hear some howling in the background, is completely unintentional. I have a neighbor with a dog that unfortunately got used to being inside, then somehow they left her outside for a couple of days. I'm not sure what happened there, but she's been howling all day long, the poor thing. So if you hear that, I'm sorry. So the first color I have is rutile yellow. The pigment is PY53. I think that this is only available from Schmincke and maybe from Roman Schmall. I'm gonna confirm that and put here on the screen, but I think yes, Roman Schmall has it as well. But it's a very uncommon color. I don't see many people using it, or many companies making watercolors with this pigment. I may be wrong, let me know in the comments. But I find it interesting because it's a kind of it's an opaque pigment. It has this kind of a pastel effect. So it's a very light, not, I wouldn't say light, but somehow muted yellow, a bit creamy. So I'm sure that you could use it for kind of pastel mixes without using white. If you want to do like a pastely orange or something, or pastely brown. I still have to experiment more doing mixes. I think I mixed it for some greens. There was some unusual colors for sure. So I find this one really unique on the line. It's not super versatile because it's opaque, so you have to be careful on how you use it. Just a little goes a long way. But yeah, I find it a unique color for the Schmincke line. The next one is common in many different brands, but I really like it, and I think Schmincke was my first one of this pigment that is in Schmincke is called transparent yellow, but is also known as Nico Azo yellow in other brands. And this is one of my favorite yellows ever. It's so luminous and transparent, and you can get these very deep yellow tones, but if you water it down, it also can go pretty light. And it's used a lot in mixes as well. Like you will find many different convenience colors that have Nico Azo yellow on them. One of them, I have it here, is quinacridone gold, because it has this unique luminosity. So when you do mixes with the Nico Azo yellow, being greens or oranges, it kind of shines through the color. It's really vibrant, unique color. If you like vibrant colors and vibrant mixes of greens and oranges, I really recommend getting the PY150. This doesn't change a lot in different brands. I have a few brands and they're quite similar, but I decided to include this one here because it was the first one I've tried and I just fell in love with it, and I use it a lot. The next one is another transparent color. It's called transparent orange, PO71. It's also a very beautiful orange. Kind of a medium orange, but very vibrant as well. And as the name says, it's transparent, so I really like using orange. And I mentioned before in the channel, if you watched any of my previous videos, I love mixing oranges with turquoises or blues and in a color palette, so I find that they look very nice, and this is very beautiful. The next one is yet another transparent color that's called transparent red deep. This is PR144, and I believe is the only paint I have with this pigment. I'm gonna research what's the name of the pigment, and I'm gonna leave it here if I find. It's a very beautiful red. It's transparent and has good light fastness as well. I think it's a good alternative to carmine that I love as well, but carmine is less light fast than this one. So the next one I have is Perylene Maroon, is PR179. I was scrambling here trying to find it because I named my pan differently and I could not find it. It was just in front of me. It's a very beautiful deep red, like a Bordeaux kind of color. And as you can see here, the transparent red deep is drying already, and it's it lost quite a lot of the vibrancy. which happens often with this type of red colors. Forgot to mention, I'm using the Clairefontaine paper to do the swatches, as I used in the previous video as well. And what else? Now it's one of my very favorites from all of the colors of Schmincke. It was love at first sight. It's called Ruby Red. This is PV19. It's a very common pigment. You will find it all over the board for every brand. Some brands have even different versions of the same pigment. This is this type of bright pink that makes very beautiful purples. And I don't know why this Ruby Red from Schmincke is just one of my favorite colors from Schmincke and one of my favorite PV19s. It's really beautiful, and like I said, it makes super vibrant mixes with yellows and blues. You mix this with French ultramarine and you get a very nice variation of purples. And this will also probably lose a lot of the vibrancy as it dries. But you can find this with other names like quinacridone rose or permanent rose. Every brand has their own versions of it. Sometimes if you really like a pigment, it's also good to have the same pigment from different brands so you can compare. Sometimes there's slight variation. Some brands have more vibrancy, others are a bit more muted. So if you really like a certain tones, it's good to have a variation of brands to test out their difference. Sometimes, like I said, for Nickel Azo Yellow, for example, there's not a lot of variants, let's say. It doesn't change that much. But for PV19, yes, you can see the difference between brands. And also, you can always check online, watch other people's videos. Otto here on YouTube, for example, she has the Color Showdown series where you can see at the same time how many different brands have the same tone, or sometimes I think she's going by name of the color rather than by pigment, but you can see the difference between the brands, so it's very useful as well to when you're thinking of shopping for a certain color. The next one is French Ultramarine. I have this one here in a half pan set that I built with all the granulating colors. Like I said, instead of going after the super granulating sets, I decided to get all the all the single pigment colors that were part of the sets, exception being Volcano Yellow and Volcano Red, because they are single pigments that were only available as part of the super granulating Volcano set. So I got the tubes and I built my super granulating single pigment palette over here, exception being Ultramarine Violet that I had already from another set, so I just included it in there. So yeah, so all of this to say, I'm swatching now the French Ultramarine that is present in many of the super granulating colors, because it's a very useful mixing color in any brand. There are some brands that have more granulation than others. Schmincke has a good granulation for the French Ultramarine, but if you are not into granulating paints, which seems to be against the grain right now, but they have also Ultramarine Finest that is not granulating. It's very fine powder pigment that they use, so it doesn't have that same granulation. I prefer the granulating version. So this is PB29 French Ultramarine. Oops, didn't take enough. Maybe it's still a bit dry. This is a basic staple color that I think it's very useful in a palette. You can do lots of different mixes. Of course, purples. It works really nicely for purples, like I said, with PV19 for example. But I also like to use it for greens, because as it's a more let's say purple leaning blue, if you create a green with this tone, it will be a more muted green, a more grounded green, and not as vibrant. Sometimes you don't want a like in your face green, you want a more muted, so you can use a blue leaning more towards red or purple rather than green, so you get the green a bit toned down. The next one is called Phthalo Sapphire PB15:6. This is phthalo blue red shade. I think it's the only phthalo blue red shade I have. I don't use it a lot, but I find it's a really beautiful color. I had to double check now because I had the impression I had taken the wrong color. But maybe I was wrong. Anyway, if I correct anything over here in the screen, you'll know. So this is, yeah, phthalo blue sapphire. I have it on a tiny little 5 ml tube that I got in my very first set of Schmincke paints. I didn't know much about watercolor back then. I just got a set with a few different colors, and that's where I got the phthalo sapphire and the ruby red. And I'll probably be getting a bigger tube of ruby red once this one is finished. What else? Next I have Cobalt Blue Deep. Is another color that is part of many mixes in the Supergranulating set. It's also a very unique kind of blue. You don't find in many different brands. This is PB74. It's a very granulating, deep tone of blue. So if you want to make a mix with even more granulation than with French ultramarine, you can go for the Cobalt Blue Deep. The tone is not very different, as you can see here. This is Cobalt Blue Deep, this is French ultramarine. They lean towards purple, but like I said, the difference is that the Cobalt Blue Deep is more textural, has more granulation. Next one is one of my first colors that I got in a full pan from Schmincke, and is very well loved and used. It's Cobalt Turquoise PG50. Not sure what's happening to me today. I'm not able to pronounce words properly. So yeah, this is a very beautiful color, and I think that in this favorite series of mine you will see this color coming over and over from different brands. We can already see here's the second Cobalt Turquoise that I share, because this is one of my favorite colors from all colors. Anything turquoise or anything turquoise always catches my eye. If I have to try anything in any brand, turquoise is my first to go color. So yeah, this will be repeated over and over for sure. And this is PG50, and this is also used in some of the super granulating mixes. You can make a lot of very interesting tones using Cobalt Turquoise. Greens, you can mix it even with oranges. I had very nice results mixing Cobalt Turquoise with oranges. You put a tiny little bit of orange, like this one for example, and you just get a bit more muted Cobalt Turquoise, and the granulation of the cobalt just comes through whatever other color you mix it with. So no matter how much you mix it, no matter which color it is, the granulation of the Cobalt Turquoise always comes through. It gives very beautiful results. So I think it's a very useful color to have if you like the color, of course, and if you enjoy making unusual mixes. Some very nice purples as well, now that I think of. So the next one is called Helio Turquoise. It's yet another turquoise, and this one I have in my palette that I shared with you in the previous video, that I call it my Seascape palette. I have many different colors here, many Sennelier like I showed in the other video, and the Helio Turquoise is one of the colors. I really love it. It's a beautiful transparent turquoise, PB16. I looked at so many pigments and colors before starting this video that now my memory is just a bit scrambled, if I can say so. So whatever I find, if I did give wrong information, I'll put here on the screen. And the next color is kind of new to me. It was one of the last ones I got from Schmincke. It's called Prussian Green. It's a convenience mix. It's not a true Prussian green. It doesn't have Prussian blue on it because I don't know if some of you know, but Prussian blue is has this particular characteristic that if you put it on the light of sunlight, it will change tone. I'm not sure if it gets it loses a bit of the yellow undertone. So if you have like this mixes of green, you paint something that is a yellowish green, with time it turns more into a bluish green, if I'm not mistaken. But then if you put it in a drawer and leave it far from sunlight for a while, it will come back, which is very strange. But because of that, I avoid having mixes with or using Prussian blue, that is PB27. But this Prussian green here is a convenience mix made out of Indanthrene blue, that is PB60, and PG7, that is phthalo green, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not a true Prussian color, it's just a hue, a convenience mix. And I find it very beautiful tone. It's kind of a teal color as well, but more leaning towards green. It's kind of similar to this one, but leaning more towards green. That I find it very beautiful. This paired with this, any of these two paired with this orange, for me is just great. It's a very beautiful tone. The next one is another granulating color, again part of some mixes of the super granulating colors. It's called Cobalt Green Dark, PG26. You see there's a trend over here that a lot of the super granulating colors are made with cobalts, because cobalts are always granulating. So it's easy to get granulating mixes with them. It's a nice natural green, and you can make interesting mixes with it. One of them that I find very interesting is the desert green, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, is this Cobalt Green Dark with a red color that I don't remember now, but I'll put here on the screen. And the next one, yet another granulating color, part of the sets as well. It's called Viridian. This is a color that you need to be a bit careful when you're buying, depending on the brand, because some brands will call their color Viridian, but they're not truly Viridian color. They are actually phthalo green, like a hue. It's a similar hue, but it's not Viridian, because phthalo green doesn't granulate, and Viridian does granulate. So when you're buying, if you want to get a Viridian and you cannot for some reason find the Schmincke one, I would advise you to look at the pigment. The true Viridian is PG18. If you see PG7, that's phthalo green. Next we have another green that it's called perylene green, but interestingly enough, it's done with black pigment. It's PBK 31. It's a very rich, deep green. It can be useful to use as it is, or also for mixes to darken colors. And the Schmincke one is very beautiful. These you can see some variation in between brands as well. I have another one from Roman Schmall, that one I'll be sharing my favorite series from that brand. You will see it's slightly different from this one. The next one is Payne's Grey Bluish from Schmincke. This is a convenience color. It's a 3 pigment color. It's PBK 6, PBK 15:6 and PBK 15:2. It's a very nice bluish gray, as the name says. A different type of Payne's Gray. Usually I don't use a lot of Payne's Gray, but when I do use, I like when they lean more towards blue or purplish rather than warmer tones like green. So I really love this one. And it makes me think of the sea, that's why I included in that seascape palette of mine. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 colors left, and these are what I consider more of earth tones. Even though the next one is Potter's Pink, that is a pink color, but I find it more kind of earthy type of color because it's not really a bright pink. But this is also very, very useful for getting mixes. If you're into granulation, it's all over the supergranulating colors. Most of all the first sets like Galaxy and Glacier and stuff like that. This mixed with Cobalt Turquoise has a very, very beautiful mix. It's Glacier Green, I think. And this is also another tone that you find differs quite a lot in between brands for the tone and for the consistency as well. I've heard some brands like Daniel Smith are hard to rewet. This one, as you could see, I didn't have any difficulty, just sprayed a little bit of water and it reactivated very easily. I have it also from Roman Schmall and Winsor & Newton, and they're all different. So you can watch, like I said, Autocano has a series of videos about comparisons between brands. I'm sure she has one for Potter's Pink, and I'm gonna try to leave a link below here if I find it. And yeah, it ultimately is about preference and convenience as well. If you're using straight from the tube, maybe it's not an issue if it will be hard to rewet, but if you want to let it dry in pans like I did, maybe it's better go after a brand that is easy to rewet like the Schmincke one. Then you have Titanium Gold Ochre. That's a very nice ochre tone. I love it. It's very, very opaque. I find it's a really, really nice earth tone. I like this type of ochre color. I don't mind that it's opaque. You can water it down if you want to get it more transparent. And yeah, it's a very nice color. Even mixing with turquoises, I got some really interesting greens, kind of earthy greens. And what else? The next one is also a newish color that I got not long ago. It's a convenience color called Gold Brown. It's made out of PY65 and PBR41. That's a pigment that I don't remember seeing before. And I find it just so beautiful, this brown. Usually I'm not much into buying browns for watercolor unless it's a granulating brown. But this one, it's kind of has this golden color, kind of orangish. It reminded me a bit of the Chinese orange from Sennelier. I know the other one is an orange, this is a brown, but it has that kind of feel of a kind of burnt color, burnt orange. It's just beautiful. I really love this gold brown. Next we have quinacridone gold hue. I told you I don't know what's happening to my speech today. But yeah, we have a long weekend here in Ireland, 4 days, at least for me at my job. We have Friday, Saturday, Sunday and Monday. And yeah, I'm enjoying taking this time to paint more, to do some courses that I have had on hold for a long time. It's a very beautiful convenience color. Like I said, it's a mix of transparent yellow or nickel azo yellow and PR101. With PR101 I always get confused because there are so many different colors that use this PR101 even as single pigments. If I'm not mistaken, it's transparent red oxide, but I'll double check and put the information here as usual. Very beautiful, bright golden color. Then the next two, the last two, are also granulating colors that are present in the supergranulating, some of the supergranulating colors. It's mahogany brown and Mars brown. So mahogany brown is PBR33. They're very similar, but I mean, they're not very similar. One is a bit more, a bit warmer, but they have different type of granulation. That's why I got both of them. Look at this, it's already granulating. Very big particles. Next, Mars brown. This, as you can see, is a bit more yellowish. This leans more towards red. This is more towards orange or yellow. And I have the impression that the granulation on the Mars brown is a bit more discreet. Here you have it, my 22 selection of favorite colors I own from Schmincke. I'll be leaving this to dry a little bit, and then I'll come back to show a close-up of all of the colors. I'll be back in a second. So I'm back. They dried pretty quickly, and now I'm gonna show you a close-up of all of them. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was useful for you if you're thinking of trying some Schmincke paints. They are really beautiful. They can be pricey depending on where you are located, because I'm living in Europe it's easier for me to get them. You get the large 15 ml tubes, they last you forever. They don't explode when you open them, as it happens to the Daniel Smith, because they have this long neck. Don't know if you can see in the video. This avoids getting that paint bursting everywhere, which I really appreciate. And yeah, you can get them in half pans, you can get them in full pans, or in 15 ml tubes. I'm not sure if the 5 ml tubes are available for sale. I think depending on the place, yes. Here in Dublin I only find them in 15 ml tubes or full pans. And yeah, it was the second professional brand that I started using, and I just fell in love with it as well, because it has a huge variety of tones and they all rewet very easily, very beautifully, and you can get a lot of different mixes. Even if you get only the single pigment colors, you can get a lot of different mixes out of them. So I really recommend it to you trying if you haven't already done so. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give me that thumbs up. Comment here in the video if you wish what are your favorite colors of all these that I showed, or if there are any that you like but I haven't shared here, please let me know. I'm always curious to see what you think, and I see you next time. Bye.